to this study session for this November 2nd. First, if we could call roll. We're all here. Is everybody here?
I'm here.
Okay, good.
Mr. Mayor, noted for the record that all 5 council members are present.
Excellent. And our retired council member is here as well. So we are excited to see her. Moving right along, we'll start with our first item, the Central Park Fallen Heroes Memorial Design. Sheila, do you want to start us off with a presentation, please?
I sure will. So good evening, Mayor Goethals and members of the City Council. Sheila Kansian, the Parks and Recreation Director. I think we are very excited to be here tonight to present the preferred design concept for the Central Park Fallen Heroes Memorial. I really am here by virtue of my position as Director of Parks and Recreation, but the real work and the acknowledgement really has to go to the entire Memorial Committee who has been working on this project for the past 2 years. We have half of our committee members are made up of veterans and representatives of our police and fire departments. And so I think throughout the design process, we really wanted to be sensitive and attentive to the input and the feedback that especially those folks gave us throughout the process. And so I think I can speak for the entire Memorial Committee, and I know for former council member Maureen Frescott is here, but I really do think that this represents a real true consensus of the entire committee in terms of getting to this process. So I really want to acknowledge and thank everybody who has been part of this. I'm going to do just the first couple of slides, and then I'm going to turn it over to Gina Chavez, a principal with RRM, who has done the design for us. RRM Design Group was our partners during the Central Park Master Plan process. And so we brought them back to do the first phase development of both this piece as well as the playground development. So really want to also thank Gina and her team for all of their creative work that they've done on this. So with that, next slide, please. I think for those who were on the council at the time the Central Park Master Plan was approved, there was a desire to set aside a piece of the master plan to have a Fallen Heroes Memorial. And so this just gives you a sense in terms of where that blue arrow is the location of it. We'll have obviously some more pictures during the presentation, but it is just northeast of the Rose Garden, and then just right off the Central Park or the Central Lawn area and the main pathway of the park. Next slide. So this is just some pictures of the site as it is existing. It was really important throughout the process that we put together a design that would maintain all of the trees in the area. So all of the existing large oak trees that you see will be preserved as part of it. There is a green building in the center of that picture right there. That's a very old structure that was found not to be historically relevant when we went through the master plan process. And so that structure will be removed. But otherwise, that kind of gives you a sense of the existing site. And then I will turn it over to Gina to talk about what the site's going to be in the future moving forward.
Good evening. Well, thank you very much, Sheila. And I'd like to say just thank you to the city and the council and the committee for allowing RRM to be a part of this meaningful project. It's been a pleasure. So our concept is inspired by the Remembrance Poppy, The Remembrance Poppy is inspired by the red poppy, which is a symbol for those who have lost their lives defending this country's freedom. So the origin of the poppy symbolism comes from a poem in Flanders Fields, and you can see it up on the screen there. It's written by a lieutenant colonel named John McCrae, who was overcome by sorrow following a battle on a poppy-strewn field in Belgium. So today, in remembrance of that battle and those who have lost their lives, crepe paper poppies are made by veterans and worn by those veterans and those who have lost loved ones on Memorial Day and National Poppy Day. Next slide, please. So this is the concept. I think we maybe need to zoom just out a little bit, Patrice, if you can. There you go. Perfect. So the concept is anchored by these 7 columns, which represent the 5 branches of the military, as well as police and fire to represent public safety. So these columns are stainless steel, and they contain the names of those San Mateo community members who have lost their lives in battle or in the line of duty engraved in the stainless steel. So the reflective nature of the stainless steel was important to us because it reflects the natural light in the area as well as the oak trees, which you saw in those existing photos. And then these columns are set in the ground plane on pavers, which have the mottos of the different branches of the military engraved. And we'll go a little bit more into materials in a later slide. And then you'll also notice these red pieces of poppy petals attached to the sides of the columns. Those, when you see them in one view, as you see in the bottom image that says elevation from lawn, if you are standing from a particular vantage point out on the gathering lawn, all of these petals come together to form a full poppy. Next slide, please. So this is a view of looking from the top down. So you'll see the brown and the gray are the pavers, and then those little thin rectangles with the long shadows are the columns. And you can see the different mottos engraved in the paving, some in Latin and some in English. You'll see in the later slides that the shape started to evolve to become a little bit more organic to reflect the natural setting of the site. And that was in response to some comments by the Parks and Rec Commission. Next slide, please. So this is to give you an idea of what materials could be used on the site. None of this is final yet, but we wanted to start exploring. So as I said before, the columns would be made of stainless steel. If you look in the upper left-hand corner images, that shows how you kind of have that real reflective, polished nature of the stainless steel, but then you can also get really clear engraved names on that column as well. And then the next image down on the left, that just shows what the petals would be made of. So it would be red painted steel. And then the next one is showing what the benches could be made of. But as I said before, we started to evolve into some more organic materials, which you'll see in some later slides. And then of course we would have the pavers. And if you look on the right side, in between the pavers, you would have those bands with the mottos. And that's where you would have the engraved lettering. And that could happen in concrete or it could happen in granite. And then last but not least, you would have these in-ground lights, which are flush in the ground, and then they would shine up to illuminate the names of the people, of the community members. Next slide, please. So this slide, it'll come back, is just to give you an idea of what the dimensions of those columns would be. So the image on the right shows you how thin those rectangular columns are. They're about 1/8 of an inch thick. And that's typical of steel. But then when you turn to the view where you actually see the names of the community members, that would be about 16 inches wide. And then the heights vary between 8 feet and 4 inches all the way up to 11 feet, 8 inches. Next slide. So the next few slides are showing what the poppy would look like from different vantage points. And this is that one point I talked about from the central lawn where you see all those panels come together from the perfect vantage point and they show that real full poppy. And that's kind of what you would see from a distance. So the next one will show as you get in a little bit closer. We're going to have to zoom out a little bit, Patrice. There you go. Perfect. Oops. Almost. Okay, so this one you'll see as you start to move closer, the poppy starts to deconstruct a little bit and show you how these are actually individual pieces and not one full poppy. Next slide. So this angle, you get a little bit closer and we're starting to see what the shape of those materials are. So as I was showing you that plan view before, the pavers, the edges of the ground plane were very rectilinear, and we decided to soften that up and make those edges curved with the curvy wood benches. And we felt like that was a little bit more complementary to the oak tree setting. And then you can see we're starting to put in some boulders and landscape, and none of that is selected yet, but it just gives you an idea of what that feel, that concept would be. And I should also mention that this view is coming from the 5th Street entrance. The next view will be coming from El Camino Real. So that's just looking at it from a different angle. You see more of the side of the columns versus the petals of the flower. Next slide. And then finally, we wanted to know what this was what it could look like from the backside, from the rose garden. So this is where we're not showing the view of the poppy because we feel like that would be pretty difficult to do from 2 different sides, considering that it's really reliant on that one perspective and all of those panels coming together perfectly. So these we decided could potentially just be red painted steel and not have that center black poppy piece. So that just gives you a feel for how this memorial would fit into the setting of the oak trees, and then I'll turn it back over to Sheila.
Thank you, Gina. So hopefully you have a good idea of what the preferred alternative is. We went through a number of designs, but clearly from the overwhelming sense from our committee, everyone really preferred the red poppy design and really the semblance behind it and really what it really means. So I know that former council member Frescott, who has been the chair of our committee, I think will want to add some comments. Also, council member Diane Pappin represented the city council during the process, and hopefully there are some members of the committee who are on the call and who can also speak to it. So Gina and I are happy to answer any questions relative to the design itself before we turn it over to Maureen and Diane.
Okay. Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you. One question I had is when you are at that perfect vantage point where you're seeing everything, does that align with a different walkway or something of significance, or like where is that in the, well, I guess what would be in the master plan of what the new park would look like?
So it would be from the central gathering lawn. It would be basically from the center of the central gathering lawn. So I guess maybe I'd have to look at exactly the map to show you, but it's, if you backed up and looked at the path, it's probably kind of hard to explain, but really the center of the lawn.
Okay. Because I can just imagine like that being a popular place for kids to run to and look at it and trying to see like when do they see it and when does it come out of focus and things like that. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like behind a tree or something.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were going for, that element of surprise. So you kind of see something in the distance because it's bright red, but then you get to a point and you're like, oh, it's a poppy.
Thank you. That's the only question I had.
Anybody else? Maureen, tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Goethals and council members. It's good to see all of you. We're really excited about this memorial. You know, we've been meeting for a couple of years, and as you saw in the report, we had some student architects give us some design ideas, which were really wonderful, but none of them quite hit the right note. So we turned everything over to RM, and when they came up with this poppy design, I think everybody was just really thrilled with it, because we were really looking for something unique, kind of a piece of art that would have symbolism and be meaningful, but also seem to work in a garden park setting. And we felt that this poppy also kind of complemented the rose garden behind it. So I think a couple of things that we are also hoping to include would be a tribute to our 101st adopted Screaming Eagles. We would not be able to list their names, but we would want to include something there that just notes them. Our hope is to also have a section for flags for ceremonial type of events. We decided we really couldn't do that year round. It'd be hard to maintain, but for special Memorial or 4th of July type events, we would do that. We've got a really good committee, and I just would like to take a moment to tell you who's on our committee. So of course, Diane is, Sheila, Patrice Olds, Ellen Mallory from from Planning Commission, George Smith, who's a retired San Mateo fire department, from the fire department, as well as a liaison with the County Veterans Commission. Brian Kelly is our former San Mateo fire chief. Jack Radcliffe, our retired deputy police chief. Doug Wright, who is a community liaison and a veteran. Jack Matthews, who's former city council member, and then Ed Collier, who's the president of the San Mateo American Legion. So we've tried to pull together a really good group of people to represent all the different community groups that might be interested in this. And I would just say, so far, I've done a lot of talking to businesses and community leaders and others, and there's a lot of interest in people to support this. Because we will be raising the money on our own, which is a fairly big undertaking, but I am very confident we'll be able to do that. So I thank you for taking time to look at this and to provide your feedback.
Maureen, fantastic job. It really came together. I think it's absolutely gorgeous and complements the rest of the park in an amazing way.
Cool, thank you.
Diane, do you have thoughts? Councilmember Pappen, take your time. I'll string along the intro. Councilmember former Mayor Pappen, what are your thoughts?
You know, it's always a blessing when I have to search for the mute button. But I'm here. So I have a couple thoughts. The first one is about the structure itself and the sculpture. And the committee really came together when we saw this design, because not only are we trying to do something where we remember folks, but we're actually using the symbol of remembrance to remember folks. So it was really, it was a great synergy for those two things to come together, the structure itself to be the poppy. The second thing I would like to say is that I think it really says something about our community, that we want to erect this memorial and to have reverence for those that gave the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. And it was amazing to work with the members of our committee who had served in the armed forces and those that are on police and fire as well, because they came at it from such a beautiful perspective and so many, you know, memories that they have. So it was an honor to serve on the committee, but I think it really says a lot about our community, that we want to erect this memorial. We want to show reverence and honor to those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. I think that it will be a place where folks can come together to reflect. But it's also, you know, it has a sense of hope to it too, with its color and having the sayings for each line of each line of duty. I don't know how to say it, but it really allows us to have a concept of the history and come together to sort of reflect on that history. So it's been a great experience to serve on this. I thank former Mayor Fresquet for her endeavors with it. It's going to cost some money. I'm hopeful that the city might have a little bit to throw in there as well. But we're going to go forward, and I'm delighted with it, and I hope that the rest of the council will be, and will be equally as supportive as I know I feel about it in my heart. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Diane. Other comments from the council? Rick, why don't you go next?
Okay, I think I will. Thanks. I just want to say that I do appreciate the serene beauty of it, and it's in a park, a part of the park that's not commonly used a lot. Just kind of a little back empty corner. You don't see a lot of activity in. I like the very tasteful design. The materials, excuse me, are certainly built for endurance. Stainless steel, I know, is a very hard metal, so I think it's hard to drill, it's hard to cut. It'll be interesting to see it engraved. So other than that, I think the colors are great. It's just, thank you, Maureen, and the rest of the committee. Really great job. I look forward to seeing this. It'll be a great addition to the park. Thank you very much.
Nice. Any other council comments before we go to public comment? I see Eric and Amaranth. Amaranth, why don't you go next?
Sorry, I was having technical difficulties. I just wanted to also express my support for the project. It's really significant. And I really like the changes and upgrades to the bridges with a more dynamic shape, and then also allowing just more seating, and for places that have lost loved ones or for large groups, having more bench seating is, I think, a real advantage to have to do that. Excited to see this move forward.
Eric, do you have more to add?
Yeah, well, first off, it's great seeing you again, Maureen. And I wanted to thank you and all the members, of course, for all the time you put into this, because this has been, I know that this is not something you just throw together, and you guys have spent a lot of time on it, and it's from your heart. So for all the members, so I really appreciate that. One of the things that I was really curious to see, because it's really a challenge, because on one hand, you want to balance the reverence and of what it's standing for, but also too, this is like a park where kids play, and you want it to be beautiful and inviting. And so that's a very hard balance to strike, I think. And I think that very few designs could possibly do that. And I definitely think this one does. And I love the symbolism, as other people have mentioned. And I think you guys hit this out of the park. I like how this is a prime location in the park, but it is underused, and it will just provide another thing of interest for the little kids running around. It would be a neat game, but for adults, it will be a beautiful symbol of what it's standing for. So I really like it. Thank you.
You guys haven't seen anything till you've seen Maureen rappelling down the rope out at Fort Campbell. I mean, it was really impressive. She earned her wings, and also her heartfelt comments to all the soldiers out there. It was quite an impressive trip, and I know that it stayed with all of us. And so to do this for them is special. Speaking of former mayors, let's turn it over to another former mayor, Jack Matthews.
Good evening, all. It's a pleasure to be with you. I just want to weigh in, and it looks like the council really is very supportive, and I thank you for that. You know, we asked CSM students to create some designs to try and inspire the community. And you may remember Maya Lin, who was a student when she conceived of the design for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. So, you know, there is a history to having students get involved, and they can provide some inspiration. And they did in this case, although the design really doesn't copy any design that they provided. A lot of the features that they thought were important are kind of in here in terms of places for people to sit and become contemplative, and also somehow, you know, record the names of people, and also consider it as a sculptural element, which this is. I mean, even if you don't have the poppy there, depending on your view, it works as just a sculptural design. It's really beautiful. And so the committee was very supportive of it. It's a very durable memorial. You know, it's stainless steel. And it's I don't want to say it's indestructible, but it's pretty darn durable, as Rick says. It's also designed to be modified so that in the future we can add names as appropriate to it. So that's also a very important aspect to it. So, and the symbolism of the poppy, I think, is just so significant there. It's unlike any memorial I've ever seen. And I really congratulate RM for coming up with that concept. And so I urge you to support this project and lend, not just by voting, but if you can, by setting aside some funds to help make it happen. So thanks very much. It's good to talk to you all again.
Jack, thank you for your over 20 years of service to the city, and thank you for your service on this committee. We appreciate it greatly. Now to another committee member, George Smith.
Yes, thank you very much for allowing me to come on this evening. First of all, I would like to thank everybody that was on the committee. As Maureen and Diane both said, it's been a tremendous experience. I'm a Marine Corps Vietnam veteran, and I belong to 7 different veterans organizations, and every one of them that I've talked to about this project it's unbelievable. Nobody, I've been all through the United States. I've looked at many projects, and nobody has a project like this. This is going to be an unbelievable project that is going to get nationwide attention, I can assure you. And I was so impressed when we came up with this. And Maureen was just, I mean, she sat there and she goes, "Oh, this is great." And Diane, oh yeah, everybody just loved it. And I really, really, really thank you and really hope that you will support this and appreciate everything that all of you do for us. Thank you.
George, thank you for your service on the committee. Now, Ed.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name's Ed Kaler. I'm a retired Air Force. I've traveled the country with something called Run for the Wall. So we stop at either memorials or we stop at cities. And like this memorial will give names to people who have died in our city so that to be recognized. We have memorials now for organizations for memorials, but nothing with the names of all those that have died. And I've been to like Wytheville, which is in West Virginia. Oh, not West Virginia, it's in Virginia. And they give, all the names of all the people that have died for that town. The memorial they have there takes a whole park up. This will give the people of San Mateo something to recognize the people who didn't make it back home, to show what's going on and be proud of who stood for their country. Thank you.
And thank you so much for your service to your country, to our country. We appreciate it. Anyone else? Let's see, Doug or Jack, would either of you like to speak? Jack, go ahead. Oh, hit the mute one more time. There you go. Jack, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Perfect.
I guess I had to go to 3 boxes. As you know, I worked before all this COVID time. So thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to echo a few words here. First of all, Diane Papin, council member, so eloquently spoke about this project. But for me, as a San Mateo resident and a former law enforcement official, the beauty of this to me is it brings together the community, all branches of service and police and fire. And I think that's kind of unique. Through my experience, what I've seen with some of these memorials is they're a little bit more specific. And I like the fact that we brought all of this together, especially during these times of division. And any opportunity that we have to unite a community, I think we should take advantage of it. And from what I've heard from you on council, is the support is there. And I would just like to echo those that would also hope that there might be some financial backing as well as just the public support. And I think it's going to be a beautiful project. Again, as a city resident, it's just going to add to this park and bring more people there. And that's all I had to offer. And I just wanted to thank you for your time and consideration in this project. And the committee gives our word to you that we work very hard to fundraise and get the necessary funds to complete this project. Thank you.
Well said, Jack. Thanks for all your years of service to the city and for your years of service on the committee. Anyone else, any other attendees, if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. If not, I'll bring it back to the council. Actually, you know what? Sheila, I think your best friend wanted to make some comments. Did I hear?
I apologize. She's calmed down, so.
She was excited about what the poppy's going to look like from the middle of the grass area, and I think we all are.
Excited. She was very excited. So I apologize. Sorry.
No apologies necessary. We're all very excited. I don't know. I don't think there's much. Oh, I'm going to go to Doug Wright. Doug, I definitely want to make sure that you have your voice heard. Click that mute button one more time, Doug. I think we muted you accidentally. Go ahead and click it again. Doug, can you click on that red microphone and see if that allows us to hear you? Keep trying, Doug, and I'll come back to you in a second. As soon as we hear you, we'll hear your comments. Any member of the council want to talk about supporting this project? I hear universal support. Is there support for financial support as well from the council? Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, one thing, can the committee talk a little bit about like the fundraising plan and like a little bit more about like what the plan is and how council could help? And
Eric, can I get you to hold that thought for a second? Doug?
Yes.
Do we get it to work? Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Doug.
Okay, I echo what George said. As a San Mateo native, born in Mills Hospital in 1947 and serving with the Marine Corps in Vietnam. And I got to
thank you for your service, Doug. And
got to give kudos to Maureen, who has been our leader in this pursuit. And I think we all agree that the design, the concept, and the finished product is going to be absolutely sensational. And I'm just so happy to be part of it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your comments, Doug. We appreciate it. And we appreciate your service to our country, and we appreciate your service on the committee. Eric, I think I cut you off there. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. I just wanted to see if I could learn a little bit more about like the funding plan and how much the committee is requesting from council, and just what, and generally also what we can do to help outside of this as well.
So I'll kind of let Maureen speak to that. We estimated the construction cost at about $240,000, and that's sort of in today's dollars. So I would only urge us that the sooner we can raise.
Can we build it in $1,900?
The sooner we can raise the money, the closer it will be to that $240,000. So the Parks and Recreation is picking up the cost, all the design cost. It will continue to pick up the cost of the construction documents throughout the process. So really, it is just the amount that needs to be raised for the actual construction of the monument itself. So with that, I'll let Maureen jump in at this point.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. Yeah, like in a perfect world, we'd have the council fund it all, but I know that's not going to happen. But you know what? Whatever the council feels they can contribute, I know these are tough economic times with what we're going through. So I don't think the committee had an idea in mind exactly. And I think that'll be something maybe council can talk about, what they feel might be an appropriate amount of money. If there are any funds that you can set aside from wherever you can get it. But I will tell you, we are planning to try to raise at least $250,000 because we know that, or more, because we know the costs are likely to go up. We're going to start off by going to some of the bigger businesses in the county and in San Mateo specifically, trying to get some major donors, and we will have a recognition at the site for people who give the large amounts of money. We haven't really defined what those tiers will be yet, but that's kind of a work in progress. We'll also be reaching out to community members. We are planning to have paved stones that we can sell. And we haven't decided on the amount. It'd probably be somewhere between $250 and $500, depending on where it's located in the memorial. So, you know, after we get this approval tonight from all of you, and it looks like there's a lot of support from our moving forward, we'll be starting a process of really identifying a step-by-step plan for outreach. It can be a big undertaking, but I'm very confident that we're going to be able to manage to do this. And I think we'll see the community come around. I think we're going to see a lot of veterans and veteran groups also come forward to support us. So at this point, that's about the best I could tell you as far as the fundraising, because we don't have an actual plan defined yet.
Thank you.
Okay. It may be premature for us to really come up with any kind of dollar figure, except that we're very interested in making sure that this gets done and that we do it sooner than later. So depending on where you're at with the fundraising in a few months, we'll see how the city can contribute.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Bonilla.
Maybe we could, since we have some staff here tonight, the former finance director, now the city manager, maybe we could ask him to start looking for some places where we could find some money to contribute toward construction and bring it back to us later.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Sounds good. We have one more item to discuss during our study session here, but thank you so much, Maureen, for joining us. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you, Sheila. Diane, you have to stay here, Diane.
Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
I want to thank the designer, too. Thank you. Nice work.
Yes, excellent, Gina. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
I know that Rich Lee is willing to bring his tuba and whatever else he needs for the ribbon cutting of the new memorial. So we look forward to that.
Make my mind.
Excellent. Now on to our next subject. Casey, we're on a mission to replace all the department heads. Is that what this is?
Sometimes it feels like it.
All right, talk to us.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Goethals and council members. Casey Charte, Human Resources Director. And I'm here with Lourdes Coles, who is our Senior HR Analyst who oversees recruitment and selection, classification, and compensation. And we are here to speak with you tonight about the upcoming recruitment for city attorney. So I have a few slides to help guide us through that process. Okay. So our wonderful city attorney, Sean Mason, is retiring and leaving us in April of 2021 after 18 years with the city of San Mateo. And he has big shoes to fill, literally and figuratively. So according to the city charter, this is one of two positions that is directly appointed by the city council. The other position, of course, being the city manager. And the city attorney serves at the pleasure of the city council. The charter does include specific minimum qualifications for the city attorney to have, and those include being licensed to practice law in the state of California, specializing in municipal law, and being a practicing attorney for at least 3 years. And the city charter also articulates the powers and duties of the city attorney, which we indicated in our administrative report. So Lourdes and I have a recommendation as far as the process for you to consider tonight, and that process is outlined in this and the next slide. It would be very similar to the process that was used for the city manager recruitment in 2018. Human Resources would hire an executive recruiting firm. City Council would form a 2-person subcommittee in our recommended process. And for the city manager recruitment, you may recall the subcommittee at that time included Councilmember Rick Bonilla, who was the mayor in 2018, and Councilmember Eric Rodriguez. Each of the 5 council members, though, would be interviewed by the recruiter to develop the profile of an ideal candidate, and that includes the most important skills, knowledge, and attributes for a city attorney. The recruiter would also obtain input from the current city attorney, from the city manager, the department heads, and the city attorney's office staff. The recruiter would then prepare those marketing materials and advertising plan for the subcommittee to review based on all of this input. And the recruiter would reach out to highly qualified potential candidates and encourage them to apply. The recruiter would be screening the applications and making assessments as they come in. And we anticipate the recruitment would probably be open for about 5 weeks, especially because we would be in that holiday season for a portion of the process. The recruiter would present the screened applications to the subcommittee to determine the people to be invited for interview. And then the interviews of the finalists would occur with the full city council. And either that would be in a remote arrangement or in person. We would have to figure that out, what works best for you. Once the city council selects its top candidate, then the recruiter would conduct background checks. The employment agreement negotiations would occur in closed session with the full council. And then the city council would vote on the employment agreement and announce its appointment in open session. So we did want to get some feedback or give you an opportunity to give us any feedback you may have regarding the 2018 city manager recruitment process, including the usage of an executive recruitment firm. In that case, it was Terry Black and Company, the usage of a city council subcommittee, and any questions you may have. And then lastly, what our desired outcome tonight is for council approval or modification of the recommended process for recruiting the next city attorney, and the identification of 2 members for the subcommittee if that is the desired process. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the council.
Thank you, Casey, for that presentation. Questions from the council? Not a lot of questions. Not a lot of questions. Is there?
Mr. Mayor, I have one question just on the recruiting firm. It is not that there are specific firms that only do city attorney, right? It's usually those that do recruiting for municipal positions, department head, whatever the discipline is. They're sort of a jack of all trades. Is that right? So you wouldn't hire?
That is correct. It would be company or firm that specializes in public sector recruitments.
Casey, are you recommending Terry again, or just a firm in general at this point?
We do know that Terry Black and Company would be available if this is the route that the council wants to take.
I mean, despite the candidate that they brought us and we ended up hiring, I thought she was really good.
How are they paid? I forget. They get a.
They provide us with an outline of what the process will be and an expected number of hours for each piece of the process, and then they bill us hourly plus expenses.
Eric, you have a question?
I didn't have a question. I had more of a comment, but are we taking? Well, I was just going to throw out that I thought Terry did a fantastic job last time, and the overall process. I don't think it. I could usually critique these things until the cows come home, but and I thought it went is about as smoothly and as efficiently as possible. So I don't have any inclination to change the process. I think your recommendation is solid, very solid.
Great.
Yeah. So about how much does it actually cost to do a recruitment thing? And just, I guess it varies, but how much do you think it costs?
I would say for this position, a rough estimate would be about $25,000 to $30,000 because it doesn't involve as much public outreach as we needed to do for the city manager and the police chief recruitments, for example.
So since there is, I mean, it's a financial matter. Is it wise or advised to actually look at more than one provider?
We can. We're actually about to start an RFP process for executive recruiters. The only caution I would have here is this process does take several months, and our RFP process is just underway now. So if we're going to look at other firms, we may want to do something more modified rather than wait until the full RFP process is complete.
Following up on that question, Casey, if I may, through the mayor. Sorry about that. Do we see like a lot of differences in costs? Like, is this something that you tend to want to shop around because there could be, it's like if you're getting a remodel of your house, one estimate could be twice as much, or is it just, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there, but not that big a deal?
Usually the costs run very similar. We've used other executive recruiter firms, for example, in the past with other recruitments. The costs are very much the same because they're performing really the same basic aspects. And what you get most from an executive recruiter is that ability for them to do outreach and have already knowledge of people in the industry who may be interested in the position.
Councilmember Lee.
Thanks. I have a question about the input from the department heads and also Drew. And I just I think one of the things that works really well in our organizational structure is the really productive and effective working relationship between our city manager and our city attorney. And so I wanted to make sure that you know, that Drew has a really significant role in the search. And that's on balance with the input from the other department heads. And I want to hear more about how you're thinking about sort of balancing out all of the stakeholders organizationally.
Sure. So when we talk about the subcommittee itself, I was focused primarily on the council and the two members that we recommend to be part of that subcommittee. Also part of that subcommittee would be the city manager and myself. So Drew would have definitely a significant presence in the entire process, more so than, let's say, the other department heads who get to provide input on what they would be looking more in a colleague and advisor capacity from the city attorney.
I think
Go ahead, Diane.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the things that I appreciated about Terry Black was that there was a lot of listening that went into the process at the very beginning, whether it was with the police chief or the city manager. And that I appreciated the listening skills and then the compiling together of the skills that, we might have been looking for in that particular candidate. It definitely streamlined the process a bit. And they may all do that, I don't know, but she seemed particularly adept at it. So that's my 2 cents for what they're worth.
Yeah, we've been happy working with her.
I'm going to ask for public comment at this point, but since we have 0 attendees, I don't think we're going to get any. So I'll close the public comment period, and I agree. I think this is great. I think having Drew on the subcommittee is essential. If we're going to have, in addition to Casey and Drew, if we're going to have two more department heads, I think CDD really should be one of them. And I would go librarian. I'd love to see James as part of that process too.
Or Public Works.
We don't have one. Yeah. Public Works is really important, but yeah, that recruitment will happen soon enough too. Other thoughts? Any other thoughts? Do you have everything you need, Casey? Do we need to go through that again?
It sounds like the council is in approval of the process. If you're able to tonight decide who you would want as the 2-person subcommittee members from the council, that would be appreciated.
Volunteers?
We had 2 that did a good job last time, but I'm easy.
Yeah, I'll volunteer if no one else.
Eric, sounds good. Any other volunteers? What? You volunteering?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, we got our 2. It's the A team. We're going to call it the A team. They didn't do us wrong last time.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Casey.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lourdes.
Thank you.
I'll see everybody back here. Really? Is that the right time?
6:22.
Okay. Drew, do you have Monday Night Football on in your office? Can we all come down?
I don't.
I'll see you guys at 7.
Okay, thanks.